3 days after payday, Leah opened her banking app. $42.18. She stared at the number for a long moment, not because it was unusual, because it wasn't. Leah was 31, a dental assistant in a quiet, mid-sized town. She showed up early, stayed late when needed, and never once called in without a real reason. She wasn't careless with money. She didn't buy anything expensive, no big purchases, no shopping sprees, nothing she could point to and say, "That's where it went." And yet, every single time, it went. Every 2 weeks, the cycle repeated itself. Payday arrived, and for a few hours, Leah felt something close to relief. She would check her balance, see a number that finally looked whole, and breathe a little easier. Rent was covered, bills were set to auto-pay. What was left felt, for a moment, like it was hers. Then the days passed, and the number quietly shrank. Not because of one bad decision, because of dozens of small ones, so small she barely noticed them happening. Monday, after a long shift, she was too tired to cook. She ordered dinner. $22. Tuesday, on her way to work, she stopped for coffee. $6. It felt necessary at the time. Wednesday, her feet hurt after a double shift. She took a rideshare home instead of the bus. $14. Thursday, a subscription renewed automatically. One she barely remembered signing up for. $12. Friday, she felt drained, and a small online purchase made her feel, just for a few minutes, a little better. $18. None of these felt like a mistake in the moment. Each one felt small, reasonable, even earned. She had worked hard. She was tired. She deserved a little comfort. But comfort, bought in small pieces, adds up in a way that's almost impossible to see while it's happening. A few days later, Leah pulled into a gas station. Her tank was almost empty, and so it turned out was her patience for the day. She swiped her card. Declined. She tried again, certain it was a mistake. Declined again. She sat there for a moment, engine off, hands still on the wheel. She had worked every shift that week. She hadn't bought anything big. She hadn't done anything irresponsible. So why did it feel like she was falling behind? That night, instead of closing the app and telling herself she'd figure it out later, Leah opened her transaction history. All of it, not to judge herself, just to look. And slowly, a pattern started to appear. There was no single large expense hiding in there, no secret splurge, no obvious mistake she could point to and fix. Just page after page of small, quiet decisions. $6 here, $12 there. Small enough to ignore, frequent enough to matter. She thought about a bucket her grandfather used to keep by the porch. It had a tiny hole near the bottom, barely visible. He never noticed the water was low until the day he needed it most and found it nearly empty. He hadn't spilled it. It had leaked, one small drop at a time, so slowly that no one saw it happening. That was Leah's paycheck. Not spent. Leaked. She sat with that thought for a while. Then she wrote a sentence on a sticky note and pressed it to the wall above her desk. A paycheck doesn't always disappear in one decision. Sometimes it leaks out one small choice at a time. The next morning, Leah decided to try something simple, not a strict budget, not a spreadsheet full of rules, just 7 days of honesty. She called it the 7-day money mirror. The rule was simple. For 1 week, she would write down every single purchase, no matter how small, and next to each one, she would write one word: need, want, or impulse. No judgment, no guilt, just an honest record. She wasn't trying to stop spending completely. She was trying to see what was really happening. By day 3, Leah started noticing things about herself she hadn't expected. The morning coffee wasn't the problem. It was small, and honestly, it was a want she didn't feel bad about. The real pattern was somewhere else. Almost every impulse purchase happened on the same kind of day, a long shift, a hard conversation with a patient, or a moment when she felt tired, invisible, or like nobody had checked on her all day. She wasn't buying things because she needed them. She was buying a few minutes of feeling okay. By day 7, the page was full. Small numbers, small words. But together, they told her something no bank statement ever had. Her problem wasn't a big one. It was made of dozens of small ones, most of them tied to exhaustion, not carelessness. So Leah didn't overhaul her whole life. She didn't cancel everything, swear off coffee, or promise herself a perfect month. She made 3 small changes. She started keeping one simple meal ready in the fridge for the night she was too tired to cook. She canceled one subscription she hadn't used in months. And she gave herself one rule. Before any impulse purchase, she would wait 10 minutes, not to say no, just to actually choose instead of reacting. The rule did not stop every purchase. It simply created a small space between the feeling and the decision. And that space began to change things. 2 weeks later, 3 days after her next payday, Leah opened the app again. $180. Not rich. Not even comfortable, really. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, she wasn't empty. Her paycheck hadn't gotten bigger. She had. She still worked the same hours. Still had the same bills, still had hard days that made her want to order dinner and not think about it. But now, when she reached for her card, some quiet part of her noticed, and that noticing changed everything. Many people believe the answer to money stress is always a bigger number, a raise, a better job, a little more coming in. And sometimes that's true. But sometimes the problem isn't how much you earn, it's how invisible your own spending has become to you. You may not need a bigger paycheck first. You may just need a clearer picture of where the money is already going. So here's a small experiment. For the next 7 days, write down every expense, even the small ones. Need, want, or impulse. No judgment, just an honest record. What would your own 7-day money mirror reveal? If this story helped you see money a little differently, subscribe to Limitless Lab for more stories about the small choices that quietly shape our lives.